This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Scott Howell.
Hello, good neighbors. Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast, brought to you by the Friends and Neighbors Group of the Greater Chattanooga region. Again, I'll just repeat my name. The announcer told you I'm Scott Howell, and I'll be your host for today. The reason that we put on this Good Neighbor Podcast, every podcast has their own theme and their own reason for being, but the reason for the Good Neighbor Podcast, we want to bring an awareness to the residents who live in our community regarding locally owned and or operated businesses in these communities and throughout the greater Chattanooga region. The reason for that is in this day of corporate giants, sometimes people can forget that there are locally owned businesses out there. We're going to be meeting with a gentleman who's a real estate agent. So let me just say this while I'm talking about locally owned businesses. If you're aware of this or not, even though a real estate agent may be working under the banner of a large corporate nationally known company, they're still an independent agent, which makes them self-employed. So always keep that in mind when you're dealing with someone in the real estate industry, that they do work for themselves. And we always want to encourage on this program as much as possible, work with businesses and people in the community who are supporting those locally owned names, because we wouldn't be what we are. Our communities, you imagine what our communities would look like if we took all the independently owned businesses away and all we had left was the corporate giants. There wouldn't be much selection out there. So we really need to support these folks. And today I'm going to be introducing one of our good neighbors. His name is Chris Powell. My name's Howell. His name's Powell. Don't get us mixed up. I know we kind of look alike, but I'm bald. We both have beards. So, here we go. Right. But here's Chris Powell. He's with Keller Williams Realty. Chris, thanks for being on the program with us today.
Yeah, great. Good Tuesday, everyone. Good Tuesday, Scott. I appreciate you having me. It's a pleasure. I look forward to get some information out there to the community today. So,
well, it's my pleasure too, and I'm always glad to meet another guy who knows how to part his hair. So,
yeah, I was gonna say we do have the same haircut.
Oh, hey, Chris. Before we jump into talking about your real estate company and your business and how you kind of operate everything, I'd like to give you the opportunity, if you'd like to speak about maybe a little bit about yourself and your family.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess on the real estate side of things, I've been in the real estate business, a licensed agent for like 9 years. I also had a construction company. I was a contractor. That knowledge really helps, hand in hand there with the real estate business when it comes to buying, selling, or investing. And then speaking of investing, I'm also an avid investor, real estate investor. One of the reasons that inspired me to get my license was because I was investing and just, needed someone to list and sell properties, find properties, and no better someone to do that than myself. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at in the real estate business. And then personal life, just mostly work. I put plenty of systems into play where I have lots of free time. That's another thing I like about real estate, because I can be pretty remote most of the time and delegate some work out, different things, like I said, systems in place that gives me a little more free time, and I respect my time as well and use it wisely.
That's great. That's great. Well, Chris, when talking about the real estate business, you said, of course, you come from the construction background and home investing. And I know one of my friends that's also a home investor. She became a real estate agent because she said it kind of gave her a peek into the investment community before maybe it came to light. So you do get to see some properties maybe before they're listed and or before the public itself knows about those kind of things. But when you're reaching out to help people in the community that are looking to buy or sell their home, how do you feel that your experience benefits you to help them?
Okay, so yeah, as I mentioned with the contractor experience, as I'm walking through, I feel that, of course, I'm going to set myself on a pedestal here and say that I'm already kind of doing a home inspection when it comes to buyers, really, and sellers as well, when I'm going to my listing appointments. So, that knowledge kind of speaks for itself as I'm walking through and kind of keeps all clients really confident. You talk about also, finding deals before what we call off market or maybe like a pocket listing. So get, of course, network with other investors and other agents. We do get a lot of calls of off-market properties. That not only helps on the investment side, but that also helps, when I'm looking at, helping a buyer out, especially first-time home buyers that don't understand the process. Once I get these type of deals in, of course, we have to list them, get them out there on the MLS and give some exposure. But I have the opportunity, again, to be able to negotiate for these buyers and, possibly buy into a property where they're in an equity position, where if you're familiar with the market these days, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's we're still in the Chattanooga area, still in the industry where sometimes people are overbidding. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. The market's interesting because you can have a home, just several blocks set on the market for 60 or 90 days, and 2 or 3 blocks away, you can have a similar home go into multiple offers, like you talked about, going above purchase price. It's a very interesting market.
I want to ask your viewpoint on something. What do you think is the reason that so many people are choosing Tennessee to move from different parts of the country?
Man, I tell you, I get asked that a lot, and everyone always, it's funny because everyone always screams, are they from California? That's the first question, get from California, or even clients calling me saying, hey, we're not moving there from California, but Tennessee's a great place to raise a family. I mean, it's a good kind of down home state, of course. Beautiful. You've got your mountains, you've got rivers and lakes. There's plenty of stuff to do here in Tennessee if you're an outdoor person. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, and then the cost of living is not bad at all. And we look at the real estate market, there has been quite a bit of growth in Chattanooga from that. But, I mean, we can all agree that that's got all across the nation.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, sometimes when you kind of grow up in the South, you think, wow, I see the prices of some of the places around Cleveland and different parts of Chattanooga, and I think, whoa, that seems high. Then I hear people moving from different parts of the country who sold their house for 3-4 times as more money for a smaller house, smaller lot. And then they come here and pay cash for a home because they got so much for their house that's paid off or something. I'm thinking, wow, I guess we're blessed and don't know it.
Correct. That is correct. And I mean, that's a huge blessing for a lot of people. Although, you get some people in town with the market going so high, they look at the equity that they've gained in their home from the spike in the market over the last several years. And that, they're intrigued about that. But, it's another thing when they sell and have equity. Where do you go then? I mean, do you try to find a state with a lower value, or do you stay in Tennessee? And I mean, you're really not benefiting yourself moving out of actually the square footage you're in. You would have to downsize and pay the same purchase price. So yeah, it's very intriguing.
Yeah, I thought about that myself because people buying because they have their house paid for, and then they sell the house and they go, wait a minute. I didn't think about trying to find another place that was, reasonable. And now all the prices have went up, and now they're looking around thinking, oh my goodness, wish I'd stayed where I was at. At least I knew my neighbor was there.
I tell you, Scott, it is a great opportunity when you look at that also, because I mean, it gives you an incentive to kind of invest some of that equity. If you do downsize, maybe you even got, I hate to say go back home to parents or family, but go back home and stay for a while. And then we're seeing a lot of people, buying land, staying in campers while they actually build, which is another great value. The cost of building has went up substantially as well, but you're still, it's cheaper to build a home instead of buying a home. So that's a good idea, to take some of that equity and do something like that. And then when we look at investing, you get a lot of people that won't go into a home that needs repairs, right? If you think about it, the repairs are not that bad. I mean, it gives you something to do on the weekends. And again, you're just building equity, and then you get to hold some of the equity from your other home that you sold.
So that's interesting. Something you just said. You said it's cheaper to build than it is to buy, because I remember a few years ago they were saying just the opposite. So the market has flipped on that spectrum too, huh?
For sure. The only thing you're seeing with building is the time frame. So really, most new construction loans are interest only. So sometimes you'll get in a situation where you're paying quite a bit of interest on your loan while you're waiting to build. So, it's a balance. And another thing I really love about real estate, Scott, is it's always a numbers game. So that's where I come in handy. And I feel like I add a lot of value as a real estate agent from these various backgrounds, because real estate's a numbers game. A lot of people don't understand. You get one price at $500,000. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be in at that $500,000. There's lots of negotiation there. It's same with building. You can always negotiate, especially if you're building yourself from a contractor standpoint. I've had people where I refer subcontractors that I can trust, and see they're able to negotiate with that subcontractor and obtain a lower price to build. So, there's another benefit there. So
do you feel like that you have an added benefit as, obviously every real estate agent can help someone buy a home or help them sell a home. Do you feel like that due to your experience that you have an added benefit if somebody is looking at maybe beginning their investment journey because the experience that you have?
Very much so. I myself have a program that I'll do for, say, hard money lending, which is basically anyone can take capital, lend to myself or other investors to do these flip projects and get the same as those building projects that I talk about. And a lot of investors will get themselves in trouble there because of time frame again, but they'll be getting just interest on the money they've been, that they're able to loan out. So that's something, that I do a lot and encourage some people to do the same way. I'm actually working with a client right now that sold their home. They're moving to Florida. So they're able to take some of that equity and invest into our investors, and they're getting a monthly payment, and that's not going towards the principal. That's just their interest on their money. So they've cashed out on their home, and now they're getting additional payment to cover whatever they want to do, take a little time down in Florida before they buy, or it was looking like they were going to just rent for a while. Payment may cover the car payment. So, it's a big consideration there.
Is that something that you would like to discuss a little more here and make people aware of the investment opportunity you're talking about? Because I'm not sure if I'm aware of it.
Yeah, a lot of people are not, and it's another one of those things that where I add value there, because you can ask a lot of investors. There's a lot of I don't know what you want to call them, newer investors versus most seasoned investors know, but I've even known some of them that don't, because that's the biggest thing with the investment world is, how do we get money to flip these properties? Because a lot of them, you can't take conventional loans out just because of the repairs needed, and then you got to find the repair money if you do. But it's and it's structured very well. What scares everyone, Scott, if I ask you right now, hey, speaking of, would you want to loan me $100,000? You would probably think I was crazy. So how is that secured, as most people ask? So it's secured the same way a bank loan is. You're just the bank. So same way you're going through a real estate attorney, a title company, closing company. Basically, they have attorneys on site, or a real estate attorney. You're getting your promissory note. You are lien on the deed. Your first lien holder on the deed. And it closes just like a real estate transaction. A lot of people do not understand that. So what they have, if you have an investor that goes fault, it's the same way. They get the property back just like a bank would. They have all the legal paperwork. It closed through the title company. They're recorded again on the deed. So, I mean, it's very safe. And, at 7 to 12, I've even seen 15% return on your money. And that's not amortized. That's over a 12-month period. So that's why I say if you're borrowing $100,000 and you're looking at 10%, that's $1,000 a month, right? And again, it does not go towards the principal. That goes in your pocket. So where else can you get a return like that? And it's secured. That's what I try to go over. Once I walk people through that and kind of show them some deals that I've done and walk them through the actual closing process that's actually legal with an attorney, then they're on board. And I think you could understand that as well if you had extra change laying around.
Yeah, and that's something that you're involved in, kind of trying to help people do, or is that something that? Tell me a little how that affects you.
I do all the time. So I'm always looking for someone that's willing to, loan hard money. So that's another thing with the public. If you want to reach out to me on that, because I flip properties myself. And again, the security there is the experience, my contractor experience. I am very aware of the time frame. I'm not in business to lose money, of course. So, I keep all my P's and Q's on that. So yeah, welcome to reach out, and I could walk anyone through the process, go over the paperwork with them, that kind of stuff, if anyone was interested with something like that. And you could do it yourself too. It's a lot of things, maybe we're going away from the not really real estate as far as the brokerage firm side of it, production. But when you look at investing, if you're looking to invest, everyone has the aunt, uncle, friends that have some money laying around, and it's anywhere from, $5,000 to $500,000, $1 million even. So, just whatever you can pull together. Some of that could be you could get a loan for the property, but you need repair money. So you may have an uncle that's going to loan you $30,000 at 10% interest. And then, it's really a no-brainer. That's just money back in their pocket for,
right.
Extra dinner, eating out through the week, whatever you want to spend it on.
They're definitely not getting that out of the bank right now, are the 10%?
No, it's just such a great residual,
Yeah.
It's a great residual machine there.
So, what I guess what I'm hearing is, when I spoke at the very beginning, telling people that, a real estate agent is an independent contractor. You're not employed by Keller Williams. It's kind of a long, tedious process, but for all the listeners' benefit out there, when somebody gets a real estate license, you're licensed through the state, and when you get it, you have to hang it under someone. You have to, put that license under someone's name. And so here you're putting it with Keller Williams, but you are an independent contractor, meaning you're self-employed and free to do other things. And what we're speaking about now are some of those other things, right? That you were already doing even before you got into the real estate business as far as being licensed, I guess.
Exactly. And you can do it, both sides. You have policies to follow that whatever brokerage you hang your license at has different policies.
Right.
A few rules on being able to list and sell your own properties, that kind of stuff. You have to, tiptoe a little bit there, but it's not that strict if you understand and kind of educate yourself if you're looking to move in that direction. But it's just it's pretty big. If even a lot of sellers that don't want to list their property that may sell outright, it gives me an opportunity to purchase the property as well.
And if someone is not, and this crossed my mind, you correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but if someone is not even wanting to move, but they have equity and they wanted to get a home equity line of credit and turn around and invest that money, that's perfectly legal, isn't it?
Correct. You would have to, because as far as I know, that if you're getting a line of credit on your home, you're looking at, well, what are you paying for that line of credit? So again, that numbers game is what a lot of people don't understand, because people get excited and be like, well, I'm going to pawn the title to my car and then let you borrow it for 10% interest. But what they don't understand is that title pawn is costing them 22% interest, right? So with these numbers, you got to be careful with, thinking like that and doing stuff, because, what I see is a lot of people invest like that. It's like, ooh, where can I get money to loan money to get a return on it? And, are you really getting a return?
Well, this is the perfect example of you having the experience. Here I am pulling something out of my hat, but the experience you've got is saying, whoa, wait a minute, slow down. And so that's where you could really benefit, helping other people to not make those mistakes, So, sounds like to me you've got a lot of experience, not only in the real estate business, but helping people buy and sell their home, but also a lot of other added benefits that people could, really gain from and working with you, especially if they're looking at some type of real estate investment opportunity.
For sure, 100%. And I can educate, anyone that's interested on that as well. I work with a lot of investors. Almost everyone I talk to, and you could probably agree to, everyone says, ooh, I want to flip houses. I want to invest in real estate. There's all kinds of money in real estate. We might get into that later, but that's the misconception, as well as real estate investors and real estate agents, make so much money and they don't really do anything. But, those are some other things that I like to walk people through and kind of give them some examples and actually show them kind of my day in, day out. I journal a lot of my days. Like I don't know if we were talking about this at the beginning of the show or just to allot for, every minute. I'm setting an open house right now. So I'm using my time to both host an open house and be on this podcast, educating the community. Right. So I really try to use my time when I do use it because I really love free time. So, a lot of times if I work 5 days a week, I'm able to get in what most people get in 2 weeks, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So, a lot of these things I like to be able to educate people on, different clients and stuff, because everybody is the money struggle, right? Like we were just talking about, how can I take this and do this and have more, Yeah. And what happens is people get anxious and they're uneducated and they start making moves. And a lot of times they get even in a position where they're deeper in debt when we're talking about finances.
That's what we don't want to do. That's for sure.
I think I'm giving you too much information. This is a great real estate investing podcast. I see a lot of seasoned vets being like, "Hey, you're not supposed to be telling anyone those inside secrets."
Don't want to get you any hate mail going here.
No, they do compete with each other. So a lot of successful investors are quiet. They'll give you a few little pieces of the meat, but all in all, they're quiet, and I don't mind at all to really give you the whole bone. That's another thing with real estate. There's a lot of real estate agents out there, but my value, I'm very confident, and I want to say it's just priceless because you can sit down with me and get educated. And everyone always asks, that too. How do you get business? There are so many agents. I've got a friend that's licensed. I've got an uncle. I've got
right.
But even my kid's teacher's a real estate agent on the side. I
Sure.
say, well, I'm the only one. I'm the only one. So,
well, Chris, you mentioned something a while ago about the myths and misconceptions. So let's go ahead and talk about that. What are some of the myths and misconceptions, whether it be buying or selling a home or real estate, investing, whatever you want to talk about?
Yeah. So jumping into this, I've always been a very social person. I'm great at network, and I can make friends anywhere. I've had, several sales positions, and then of course I had to sell myself in all of this, especially as a contractor as well. So very trusted and easy to do. When I sat down with someone, very confident, just building that rapport. And that's one thing I really enjoy about my business, just making friends, long lasting friends after I make, all of these transactions go forward. But the misconception is always, a real estate agent, they always have brand new top of the line clothes, watches, cars, houses, homes. They own property, they make millions and they don't really do anything. So I used to tell people all the time as a contractor, it's kind of the same misconception there. It's just, well, all you really have to do is get you a truck and a tool belt, right? And you can go out and make just as much money. So I lead people the same way in the real estate world. And I get all kinds of agents that come to me, and new agents. They're just blown away by like, how do you make money in this business? And it's tough. It's just so tough. If you don't enjoy talking to people, which, these days and time, it's getting a lot rougher. A lot of people can find almost any information, even if it's not, factual, on the internet.
Yeah.
So they don't want to spend a lot of time. And I even kind of noticed that. So I have to really kind of show, instead of course, talk value, show value. So that misconception is just, sometimes it blows my mind because I don't understand, because, it's almost like, I hate to mention like an election. If you don't have the knowledge of something or a fact of something, don't really perceive. What I always tell everyone is like, hey, go get your license. Hey, learn, because I've even had a lot of people do that and come back to me and say, hey, there's no way I can work in this business. I've been doing it for 6 months. I haven't gotten one paycheck. And I'm like, well, how many hours do you have in 6 months? And they were like, a lot more than my regular job. So, that's, we get big checks. I will admit that, I'm upfront and honest. We do get big checks a lot of times from commissions. But when you look back at the hours, again, the numbers game, and kind of divide that down. And a lot of people don't understand, you're paying your brokerage, You're paying Uncle Sam. When you're a high volume production, you pay an assistant. There's a lot of things that go into that. Transaction coordinators. You may have like a buyer's agent or a listing agent helping you out. So it's really, that full check, of course, like any paycheck, it doesn't go directly into your pocket. So that's another thing that I kind of have to educate people on, because I get a lot of people, of course, wanting to negotiate when they're listing their home. The commissions, and I never negotiate my commissions, because how would I be at negotiating your home if I sit here and negotiate easily with you on lowering my commissions? So my value is always there, when I'm talking with someone, and I walk them through that. Again, that numbers game is what they don't realize is we say 6%, 3% paid to a buyer's agent that brings a buyer usually. And if I bring a buyer, I will reduce commission as well. But when you look at that percentage, whatever that is that you're paying to sell your property, the opposite of the value proposition is like we just talked on the, would you get a home equity loan to let someone borrow to invest in real estate? Well, you got to look at the numbers there. I mean, can this person that's listing and marketing your property save you, 6% or maybe even more? Because I've seen a lot of transactions that I've been through with owners that go into it themselves, and they're like, oh yeah, I sold a house. I know where to get the documents, the state documents. I know I'm familiar with the title company, so I'm just going to close it. Well, what did you negotiate? Did the buyer or seller pay any concessions? There's a big range of things there. Did you save money on your homeowner's insurance? Did you get a home inspection? Because if you're not aware that you needed one before you close a transaction, and then a month later you run into more than 6% of the house if you're looking at a buyer side, more than 6% or whatever value you lost, you're about to lose. So the numbers game is you got to stop and think a minute about that when you're looking at transactions.
And you have a lot of time too involved. Some people might not realize it, but I've had some real estate agents tell me, I showed somebody 100 houses before they finally made their decision.
Correct.
Some real estate agents call it, we live in the HGTV generation now, where everybody thinks you show 3 houses and you find your dream home.
Yeah. And then you're looking at post closing a transaction. A lot of times you'll get the seller of the property or the buyer of the property will continue to call you. You're like, especially people from moving out of town, you're like the local service directory. It's like, where can I find a good septic guy? Where's the county office to pay my property taxes? So you're still putting in hours after you've earned, that money, that commission.
That's what you get for being such a nice guy, Chris.
Oh man, it's wild. It's wild. I love helping people. Don't get me wrong. But I always say, that's another thing. I like to talk to 10,000 people, because from those 10,000 people, I'll get 500 transactions, or 1,000. That conversion rate is pretty low, but the more people you talk to, the more transactions you get. But that's another thing. You waste a lot of time talking, like you were talking about showing. I try to be really detailed on my buyers when I'm working with buyers. When I sit down with them to begin with and do a buyer's consultation, or if I meet them at the first home I'm showing and do a buyer's consultation, I'll go over them with a lot of specifics, get a lot of detail on their end, so I'm not missing anything. And again, that knowledge of me being a contractor, I really get their vision and get a feel for what they want. So after I've showed them about 5 homes, we're usually under contract. If not, a lot of times after that, I'll say, hey guys, let's go back and revisit some details, because this last home I showed you guys had the perfect backyard and deck like you wanted, and everything else was good with the house you were looking for, the property. So let's sit down and kind of revisit, because everybody's always changing their mind. And once they start looking at properties, they all run together, or they see something that's added, that they didn't realize that they couldn't live without. And I don't mind at all. Just, I just want to get straight. So another system is just so I can be organized and just really help you find what you want as quick as possible.
Well, it makes sense, because nobody comes into this going, I want to see 100 houses before I make a decision. Nobody means to do that. So it makes sense to go back and revisit, right?
100%. And I want to say, I don't know if you're familiar with this whole thing going on with the National Association of Realtors with the big lawsuits. Talk about work and hours. It's almost like getting another college degree, with the things that have changed with the forms, how you had to present marketing now, a lot of the public does not know that. They're definitely not educated on that. Sometimes it takes a professional to educate them on that, or they have to dig pretty deep to get that information. So that, we spend hours when something like what's happening right now, and then we have to build other values. And what is good is it's going to weed out a lot of new agents, because they're not going to know really how to do business, and they're going to have to be really careful, because they could be doing all this for no paycheck. If they're not very, very careful, and there's a lot of fines involved and that kind of stuff. So I tell a lot of people, I get a lot of agents and been to so many meetings and looked at a lot of this stuff, so many webinars and lots of different things through the associations and stuff. And I always tell agents, because they're freaking out, and they're like, hey, I'm going to have to change my career. And what I always say is, well, if you were doing your job right to begin with, like, you don't have anything to worry about, because now it's kind of restricted you to be that professional and actually, get to that detail like we talked about, and revisit some different things, and make sure you have all your documentation correct, because you don't want to get to a closing table. Knock on wood, and I'm confident enough that it will never happen, is I have never got, you don't want to get to a closing table and realize that you as the agent has made a mistake that could result in a lawsuit. Of course, real estate agents have the errors and omissions insurance to cover a lot of that, but in some cases it could be fully your responsibility. It could come out of your pocket. The lawsuit could be geared towards you and your brokerage. So yeah, lots of as you can see, it's not a, I guess you could say, a walk in the park, or so.
Yeah, there's anything that pays well comes with a lot of responsibility.
Exactly.
I don't care what it is in life. If you can make good money at it, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. So anybody who kids themselves and just thinks all you do is sit around and make money is just not really thinking soberly about it. But Chris, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we were always wanting to say, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And that's, if you look at real estate investing, everybody has tried it, especially over several years. They're still trying it. And the worst thing is, a lot of people won't listen to the information that you're giving them. They have to learn. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way, right? And that there's a huge liability there. Yeah.
Well, Chris, if there was one thing, I always like to ask this of everybody that I speak to, if there was one thing about Chris Powell and your business as a real estate agent, whether it's by helping people buy or sell, or real estate investing, or whatever, that you wish that all our listeners knew about the heart of your business, that they probably wouldn't know unless you shared it with them, and you'd like to share it loud and proud here today on the Good Neighbor Podcast, what would that be?
Really just like I've been talking about, and kind of, what do you want to say? Not really a lecture, but, just educating people. I have a thing in my CRS system when I send stuff to people. It's kind of the backside of the tax suite for the counties. It says, knowing that you really don't know, and that's kind of upfront and blunt, but I like being that way. It's just like, and then of course I don't know everything. There's a lot of new things coming into play. There's always new laws and stuff like that as well. But I'm just upfront with people. They know that they can get the knowledge they need to make the decisions they need to make when it comes to real estate, buying, selling, or investing from me. Because if I don't know it myself, I will either do the research, or I will find someone that does know and set up a meeting, even if I have to get you in front of someone, just to educate you. And it's just wonderful when you see that light come on in clients' eyes, just when they realize that, and just how much they appreciate me guiding them through that. And then that's another service that is not paid. That's just, something that I offer as an agent. And you won't get that in a lot of people.
That's good. Good point. Good point.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to do this. Take a moment and tell people how that they can find out more about Chris Powell, more about who you are, and how they can connect with you online or offline.
So yeah, you guys can go to Facebook. This Sold Home is my Facebook page. You can also look me up, Chris Powell, Facebook as well. Very outgoing. I try to do a lot of adventure stuff. I used to race motocross, still ride some motocross, paragliding, snowboarding, a lot of backcountry adventure stuff. So I always like to mix everything into fun. So you can get me there on Facebook, friend me, like my page, whatever. You can also Google me if you want to see some of my reviews that I've gotten. I need to work on that, but you can also Google me. Call me anytime at 423-421-0667. And when I say anytime, that's 24/7. I will still take your call. If not, I will text with you and get back with you within 24 hours, which is something you don't see a lot. Communicate very well. So yeah, most all social media platforms. I'm also on Instagram, Chris Powell, and then Chris Powell, Keller Williams Realty. And if you want to come by and see me, I'm hardly ever at the office, but 7158 Lee Highway there is the Keller Williams office. You can come by, leave a message with Mary up front. She knows how to get in touch with me direct immediately. She puts everything in my mailbox. She's a rock star. So yeah, I'm easy to find, very easy to find.
Kudos to Mary, the rock star, right?
100%. She's awesome. Yes.
Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure meeting you here today, sir. And thank you so much for all the education and the time and the explanation that you put into this podcast recording today. I'm sure the listeners are going to really enjoy it and be very informative about everything that you've put out to us. So thank you.
Yes, Scott, grateful for you and your time and allowing me for this opportunity.
My pleasure, Chris, and thank you for that as well. And to all the good neighbors of the Chattanooga region, I know that Chris hopes, after you've heard him go into explanations and detail, educating us about not only buying and selling our home and how the market is now, but also some things about real estate investing that he can help us with and teach us about and guide us through. I know he hopes that you'll keep him in mind when these things come about in your life, that you have that interest, and reach out to him. Check out his Instagram, his Facebook pages. Keep his phone number, put it in your phone, keep him on speed dial, whatever you want to. Go by and see Mary, and drop him a nice gift card for lunch or something. Sure he won't deny you that there. But keep him in mind. Yeah.
I was going to say, you guys have, especially towards the investing side and return on your money as far as lending, man, you guys have got some value today for free. And I don't have any books or CDs to give out that tell you different, but you can come to me direct and I'll give you lots of direction, lots of knowledge.
Yeah, see, that's worth a gift card, ain't it? That's worth
for sure. Yeah,
definitely, Chris. We appreciate it so much, and and of course, I want to say to all the listeners out there, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to visit with us today at the Good Neighbor Podcast. Always remember to support the locally owned and or operated businesses in the greater Chattanooga region. From Cleveland to Dalton, from Jasper to Benton, they're all important to us. This is Scott Howell of the Friends and Neighbors Group. Everyone go out and make this a remarkable day.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpcleveland.com. That's gnpcleveland.com or call 423-380-1984.